The Jersey Swap podcast is sponsored by Apollo Home. Folks, hell is real has come and gone, but summer's still on the horizon. Things are going to remain hot. Keep your house cool with a $29 HVAC cooling tune-up from Apollo Home. Also, just for CST listeners, Apollo Home is offering a $1,101 off a new AC unit. That's right, $1,101 off. That's CST's gift just for you. Give Apollo a call, send them a text, or schedule online at apollohome.com. The podcast is also sponsored by Beyond Exercise. Beyond Exercise is a local physical therapy and fitness business that helps people stay active and injury free. In fact, they help some of our local MLS, MLS Next, and FCC Academy players with their health and performance needs. Check out their suite of services at gobeyondexercise.com. Lads, today it would be Tottenham. I'm coming off of the Europa League win that they just saw. I know I might be springing it on my guest. I hope you're not an Arsenal fan, but
I'm a Manchester United fan,
oh,
so I'm having a bad day myself.
I'm sorry. We've got Tommy Moos here from Scarves and Spikes. We were going to talk about Atlanta United. We can definitely go straight to that. I'm sorry. We can retake
That
all
was
of
the worst
this.
game I think I've ever watched. It was so boring, absolutely so boring. Why get off work 2 hours early to watch that?
Well, so you can watch somebody finally win the first time in what, like 17 years? Sorry. Well, we can retake that if you want, but we're here for
Oh,
the
you're
Jersey
fine.
Swap. We're here for the Jersey Swap podcast, back once again to talk FC Cincinnati and their opposition this week. We had a lot of heat that was generated last week from Hell is Real, but it was a 1-1 milk toast finish. We couldn't figure out really any answers back and forth, but the heat you might be feeling down in the Peachtree State, it feels like it's hotter than Georgia asphalt, and it might be self-generated. Atlanta United are in an 8-match winless tailspin. So it will be interesting to see what happens when the orange and blue head over to the Benz and come a knocking. We have Tommy Moos from Scarves and Spikes here to talk about soccer in the ATL. Tommy, welcome to the podcast.
How's it going? I only did half the assignment. I came to Cincinnati, and I came to the game, and I thought this was the coolest thing in a stadium I have ever found. We were walking around, and we're seeing people walking around with Das Boot, and I am a huge Beer Fest fan,
Oh,
and
there
I
you go.
started stopping people, going, "Where do you get that?" And they're like, "You got to go to that corner." And I kept seeing more people, and I finally found the place, and I hold on to this. This is like my favorite thing I've ever bought at a stadium, and but I forgot
It
to fill it, so my bad.
it it's interesting because I think the one that they tried last year didn't have the handle on it, so it was just this
Oh,
regular boot, and it felt like a regular glass. But I think if you're walking around in a stadium with a boot filled with beer, you sort of want something easier to hold it. So it's good that it has a handle.
oh, absolutely. If it was without the handle, oh, there'd be so much problems, so many.
Well, I mean, this time we're trading locations. This time we're down the away leg of this home and away. It's been a few years. I've been to the Benz a few times. The last time I went was actually the week before everything went to the Potter on 2020. So I haven't been down there in the past 5 years. Do you feel that the experience at the Benz has changed ever since then?
Well, the team hasn't been as good because I think
Hmm.
that game was the first game. That was the game where I think it was a 1-1 draw. Am I? I
That
think
was
that.
the year before. The year, I think you guys actually did beat us.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, actually, yeah. No, now I know. Yeah, yeah, I remember that game because Joseph Martinez got hurt the game before again in Nashville. So actually, that's a good point right there. That when Joseph got hurt in Nashville, it basically took the fan base and this team completely downward, a downward spiral because they haven't really been good since then. Now they've had some
Yeah.
okay seasons, but when you think of Atlanta United in their first couple of years, I mean, you had a fantastic first season, inaugural year. You lose to the Crew in the playoffs. The next year, you win MLS Cup, and then that following year, in 2019, you didn't win MLS Cup, but you won the U.S. Open Cup. You won the Campeones Cup, if you want to count that as a thing. But a trophy is a trophy. And they were a missed penalty away from going back to MLS Cup that season.
Mm,
So
mhm.
it was those were three exceptional years to come into the league. Since then, it's trended downward, and this season where you thought you brought on, two new DP players, a club legend, bring a club legend back, and you set some crazy transfer fees. I get a new manager. You would think that you would not be close to the bottom of the barrel. I call the second worst place the wooden spork on our podcast, but we are close to the spork. We are close to the spoon because LA Galaxy is going to turn it around here sooner than later. So I'm nervous. I am nervous, but I will say MLS power rankings, because those are the most important thing in the world. They brought us up
Mhm.
two. I don't know
Mm.
why, but we're up two spots. So I'm living.
I mean, I really think last week you gave Philadelphia a run for their money. The only reason that they won that game is because of the penalty. And so I think you gave them a run for the money, but we can talk a little bit about how this team is sort of feeling, probably by looking at these three major purchases that you had made. Emmanuel Latte-Lath, Miguel Almiron came back to the team, and Mateus Click from DC United. Loads of the improvements sort of put through these players, but could you? It might be a little harsh to grade them right now. The curve might still be kind of fresh, but can you give a grade to these three players and how they've contributed to Atlanta United?
Sure. And well, actually, I mean, if you think about it, Atlanta United really has four DP players because Click came through, and while he was a DP, it was with New England or was it
I think it
DC? I
was with
forget.
DC United.
DC, that's it.
Yeah.
So when they brought him over, everyone's like, well, they don't have a DP spot open. Well, they're paying a lot of their salary. So technically, if you really want to think about it, they do have four DPs on their roster with Alexei Miranchuk.
Mhm.
But to get to the three additions there, Click has been okay. He's been hurt. He started the home opener, and then after that, he got sick, missed a couple games. Then he got hurt again. So he's been okay. The midfield's been kind of a mess with Atlanta United right now. They've been trying a little bit of everything. So it's hard to grade him. Now, you look at Latte Lath and obviously record signing for MLS. Denke was there for a little bit, and
Mhm,
then
mhm.
Latte Lath comes in to steal that record back. He started off pretty good. The first game, he had 2 goals against Montreal, and you're like, okay, this is great. We didn't know how bad Montreal was going to be, so we're like, was it impressive that he scored 2 goals there? But his main thing is speed and being able to use it, and he hasn't been put into the right situations to be able to do that. So I mean, he is definitely underperforming. So if I would say he's maybe a B- player. And the same with Miguel Almiron. So while it's been great to have Miguel back, the plan was just to use him on the right wing. Now, when he was here originally, he was the number 10, and his speed made him and Joseph Martinez completely dangerous together. Things have changed. When he went over to the Premier League, he was playing on the right with Newcastle. So that's where they were going to bring him in. And it's been okay. He has scored a few goals. He's had a disallowed goal, which was going to be, one of the MLS goals of the year if it went in, if it counted, but it didn't. It got called back because of an offside. But how I grade it, and maybe it's not fair to Miguel, is that because he's playing on the right, one of Atlanta's best players with Saba has not been able to see the field because they tried Saba on the left. Because every team's got a plan when they come in, and they tried Saba on the left, and he's never been good at that position. He's been good on the right. And if you want to say Atlanta had a an MVP over the past couple of years, it's been Saba. But because Miguel's here, Saba has not been being able to see the field, and that takes points away for me personally with Miguel, because if you can't get the best players on the field at all times, then obviously the management has messed up, and you're just not able to put your best lineup out there.
Well, let's talk a little bit about, I think, really how management has tried to fit these four players, I guess. If you really want to look at Alexei Miranchuk, who came, relatively late into the season last year. Um, I mean, as much as the money and the roster space has been devoted to these players, are there any pre-existing players who have either surprised or disappointed you this season?
Well, Brooks Lennon, and this isn't his fault. He hurt his shoulder in the Miami series last year, so he missed a lot of time.
Mhm.
Came back. When you're missing some time, you're a little bit off. He's been injured twice. He got injured a few weeks ago, missed a game, came back, and then he got hurt again on Saturday. So very likely he will not be playing on Sunday there. Pedro Amador was on the left wing over there, left back. He was absolutely fantastic coming to MLS because they sold Caleb Wiley for a large
Right.
amount of money,
Right.
and they bring him in, and there's not a lot of highlight reels with Pedro. You didn't really get to see a lot. This guy comes in and was averaging almost an assist a game to end the season. That includes the Miami series. I mean, he was just absolutely fantastic there. Especially when you don't have a lot of players that can really score goals. That team that beat Miami did not have a lot of big names on it at all. So those two players have been disappointing for me. But the one player I would say is Jay Fortune, which is a homegrown for Atlanta United. He has. Last season, he was one of our best players in the
Mhm.
midfield to end the season. And he was another problem that came into this year is because they brought Click in, and they've been trying to do different things in the midfield. He was unable to get a chance to be able to be on the field. Now they are trying to do everything they can. Right now, he is playing on the left wing at times because they don't have Atlanta United does not have a legit left winger right now. They had one, which was Shandy Silva, and they ended up selling him right when the transfer window ended. So they put him in the midfield a little bit. They put him on the left, but he's a bright spot for Atlanta United for years to come.
Yeah, that's right. Zande Silva off to St. Louis, I believe,
Hmm.
right at the deadline. That was a bit of a shock to me. I thought that there were some players that I felt could have been given a more of a chance in Atlanta, and to see Silva dealt like that kind of was a shock to me.
Yeah, so when he came in for that like last third of the season, he was really good. He was scoring goals. They had him and Saba and Yakamakis together, and it was one of the better teams to end that season. Going into that playoff run, well, it wasn't a run. They ended up losing in three to Columbus that season, but it was still a good formation of those three working together. The following season, he didn't do hardly anything at all. Or last season, he did not do much at all. And part of that was we found out right towards the end of the season that he'd been playing injured. He had a foot injury, and he was having a hard time putting weight on it. So they were playing him when they could. He was a sub, and then obviously he ended up scoring the game winner in game 2 against Miami in the playoffs. So, if you're going to have a couple minutes, why not score in the 90th against the best team in MLS? But this season, again, it was kind of the same where he had opportunities. He had an opportunity in Cincinnati in the game earlier this season. And it was kind of with him, it was either he looked like one of the best players on the field or he disappeared. And unfortunately, pretty much every performance this season, he disappeared. So I look at it as even though you didn't have a true left winger on the roster to be able to play, if someone comes calling and saying, we'll give you this, to get him off your roster, to maybe give you some room in the summer to be able to do something to make your team better, then you do it. Try to work on other, maybe get a homegrown up to play on the left, or like right now they're moving Fortune there, and it is what it is right now in Atlanta.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at really how this has all been put together. I mean, we can definitely go over this 8 game winless streak that I had mentioned. I do want to focus a little bit on, you can point the finger at the roster as much as you want, that people are brought in and are expected to perform and they're underperforming. But let's also look at the head coach, Ronny Deila. Um, I guess the question would be, since this is his maiden year with Atlanta United, how much of a leash do you feel he has? I mean, do you feel that it's his style and selections leading to the team underperforming?
That's a very hard question, and that's one that Garth Lagerway, I mean, has to decide. And there was actually an article that came out from the local writer Doug Roberson today that said had an interview with Garth and said that he has trust in Ronnie, and that he's not in danger. Now, personally, for me, I don't like when anyone says that a player or a coach is safe, because you don't know how bad the situation can get. And Atlanta is in a unique situation. Real quick, we've only got 2 home games left before we go on a 6-game road trip because of the Mercedes-Benz Stadium is taken for the Club World Cup. So they're going to be going after Orlando on Wednesday. Atlanta will not return to Mercedes-Benz until after the 4th of July. So that's why these games, and this game specifically on Sunday, is so important for Atlanta. But I look at Ronnie and say I think he's trying to do the best with what he can with this roster. I look at the front office and the coaching staff as a unit, and we talk about all these pieces, and we haven't really even had a chance to talk about Alexei Miranchuk yet. But if the puzzle pieces don't come together the way perfectly that you want, in an MLS, when you have these restrictions on your roster, it can make things go bad real quick. And that's the situation where I think it is right now. Pieces aren't working together. You don't have a number 10 that is really doing well. Alexei Miranchuk came in last year as the DP, and he had some opportunities last year. He scored a couple goals, set up a couple assists, but the I guess what I was trying to compare it to is like if you have a quarterback that doesn't have wide receivers, we'll go to Cincinnati. If Joe Burrow doesn't have Higgins or Brown,
Jamar
then
Chase.
Jamar Chase. That's it.
Yeah.
Sorry, he's on my fantasy football team. I should know that. I live in Ohio too, so I should know this
Oh.
more. But but if you don't have wide receivers, your quarterback's going to definitely struggle. And that's what I said with him. It's like, okay, well, if you're going to bring on, get him some wingers, you're going to get him a legit number 9, then he should be having a fantastic season. And it's just he looks lost at times. He's for a DP player, in this league, your DPs have to produce. They can't just be okay. They need to be one of your best players on there. And on our show, we've had MLS announcers come on, and the first thing they say to us is, what are you going to do with Alexei Miranchuk? And we don't know that. We don't know that. And unfortunately, I mean, I don't remember the contract of what they brought him in for, but it was a high amount. It was like one of the top 5 that they brought him in for. And he just hasn't been able to really find his ground here. And, we've had suggestions about, taking him from the 10, maybe moving him to the 8, doing a little bit of everything. Last game, he even played a little bit of time on the left wing there. It looked a little bit better, but again, if it's your DP player, you can't say it looks a little bit better. They need to be some of your best players on the roster. And we actually just had a conversation on our show about this. We said, how different could Atlanta United look if possibly the rule came in where you could buy players in the league, like what you guys did with Evander? Like, absolutely brilliant, because when you bring a guy in, it's just bring him in like he knows MLS. Because how many times you hear that conversation? How long is it going to take someone to get ready, to be prepared for MLS, to travel, all of that? You were able to just drop him in. Like, I look at the Evander thing and say, if this rule was there last summer, I wouldn't be shocked if Garth Lagerway, who is an MLS sicko, would have tried to go and get a Lucho or get an Evander and just guarantee that you have a guy that works in this league.
Yeah, yeah. It would have been really interesting to see really what the complexion of all of the teams really was if that particular rule was in place. Just a look in the little near to distant future for Orlando City up next at home, difficult. But then like you mentioned, the 6-game murderer's row. I won't exactly call it, but you've got
Road trip from hell.
both New York teams, then Columbus Crew and Inter Miami. So it's going to be some rough weather. You do have Delta, which is a great hub, not a sponsor, so they'll be able to get back and forth. But who knows really what airspace is going to look like after six matches on the road. Let's prepare a little bit for this game by looking at this winless streak. How did you feel that the team hung against Philadelphia? Once again, a 1-0 loss, but it was a PK that determined it.
Well, we're starting to become the team, I think, and that's why I'm interested to see your thoughts on Cincinnati. But Philadelphia definitely rotated their roster out there. Brebo did not start in that game, and when we were joking around, we saw the lineup and said, I think Philly just wants to get to halftime and be able to say it's still 0-0, or maybe it's 1-1, and then let's bring in the reinforcements here and let's finish them off. And that's kind of exactly how it went. Now, Atlanta United did look better than they have in the previous games. They looked real bad in some of the road games in this winless streak. There was 2 back-to-back 3-0 losses, which were absolutely some of the worst soccer I think I've ever seen this team play. But at home, there you obviously want to see an improvement, and they did. They had multiple opportunities to go up 1-0, but they just weren't able to get it going. Halftime happens. Philadelphia brings in Baribo. Here's what immediately it's attack, 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 and within 15 minutes, Brad Guzan plays the ball incorrectly. He's out of position. Um, uh, there's a slide from one of our defenders, handball. Abram puts his hand in the air like he slides. There's no natural position when you're sliding like that. It hits his hand. PK, 1-0. And then for me, I wanted to see how Atlanta reacted. And it was a back and forth game for about another, 15, 20 minutes ish. And then the last 10 minutes was all Atlanta. They were trying to get that tying goal. Latte Loth had an opportunity, beautiful save, and they lose 1-0, which is basically what it seems like Atlanta's been doing a lot lately. Is they can't score a goal, but they always seem to allow strikers to be able to score against them. So Denke, if that's your thing on throwing some bets down, Denke is the guy I think that is going to score a goal.
Yeah, you mentioned Guzan. They apparently, I think Fatmob called them men of the match. 6 saves, still pretty good. But also they're pointing out, I think, that it was sort of a 3-man or a 5-man back line for the past few games. I think they started out of the gate as a 4-3-3. And since then, they've been doing this 3-man, 5-man back line. Do you expect to see that more of that? I mean, it seems defensively it's working a little bit.
I think so, especially with Brooks Lennon very likely to be out there. Now they've been starting some younger players on the wings. Pedro Amador came back from his injury. He seems to be okay, so you'll imagine him on the left. On the right, Matt Edwards is very likely going to get the start. He had his first game of the season opener because of Brooks Lennon being out, so I expect him to match up there. But yeah, I mean, right now one of our best center backs, Gregerson, has been out for quite some time with an injury. Big player, big defender. So they lack a little bit of depth there. So what they've been doing is they've been kind of changing the 3 center backs out on who's going to be there. But yeah, absolutely. I think that they're going to stick with that because they've asked Ronny Deila about that and said, we were leaking goals and we needed to stabilize things back there. So if that's how they're going to do it, absolutely. I think that's what they're going to continue doing here, especially as they start preparing for this long road trip.
That being said, I mean, so if you do have the 5 line, do you expect them to tinker a little bit more with their attack in midfield? I mean, how do you expect? You were mentioning that Moranchek is not necessarily going to be the number 10 all the time. That they've been trying him on the sides. Do you expect to see more of that, or how would you like this lineup to sort of tinker itself?
Well, one of the defenders that we picked up a few years ago, like I was mentioning, the good season, we picked up Tristan Mayumba, and when he came in, he looked absolutely fantastic in the midfield, and there were a couple early games, like people were joking around, like we found the Nagby replacement, and that season, I gave him an A. The next season, he didn't do as well. This season, he came back. He actually started against Cincinnati the last time he played, was fantastic, and then he got injured. He got carted off, which looked like it was going to be a much longer injury than what it was. He came back pretty fast, but unfortunately, he got hurt again in the last game. So they just announced today that he's out 2 to 4 weeks. So, with that said, I am not really sure exactly what's going to happen in the midfield there. But Jay Fortune, it could be a Jay Fortune because he was playing next to Mayumba in the last game. I wouldn't be surprised if they have Click and Fortune in the midfield and then continue to try to have Runchuk kind of in the center, also moving to the left wing, and then Miguel Almiron on the right, and then Latte Loth up the middle.
Okay. I was reminded that the last game was a 2-2 draw at TQL Stadium. I think that was also a 4-person back line. So this might be a different formation that I think we might see coming out of Atlanta. There's also a good chance that while we might see the 5-man back line from Cincinnati as well, I think you're probably going to see Luca Rosciano once again back in the right wing back, where I feel he's a little bit more comfortable being able to bomb up and down the sides and giving them an opportunity to play back four if necessary. So this week you might see, I think, both teams sort of being a little different than the last time they saw each other.
Well, yeah, and absolutely remember that was international break as well. So there were a lot of players that were missing
Yeah,
in that
Almiron
lineup
wasn't
there.
playing in that game, was he?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I
This
mean,
this
I
should
think we
be.
were missing I think we were missing at least four players in that last matchup. So being able to get everyone back is fantastic. But that 2-2 game, that was a fun one.
Yeah, that I remember. I think Latte Loth scored, and then Evander came back with 2 goals right away. And then poor Elvis Powell, he tried his hardest to keep that ball out of the goal, and unfortunately, it went off him at the worst carom that you could possibly get.
Well, that is our second MVP. So our
Owen goal, yeah.
own goal now has three
Oh,
goals on the season. So if you're looking for an MVP,
well,
that's
we'll
that's the own goal.
we'll see who ponies up for the transfer fee for that. Let's make our predictions for this. We have our Growler Cup still in place. If you're a Patreon and you listen to Cincinnati Soccer Talk, you can predict win, loss, draw, and what the score is. So we're gonna pass it over to you, Tommy. What do you expect the score to be?
Well, I've seen Atlanta get a little bit better in the past couple games. Has it been great? No. I do think that Atlanta gets a goal in this game. They're due. They haven't been scoring very much, but I do think they get a goal. However, I if Cincinnati does not play what a Philadelphia does and rest their guys and plays their starting lineup, I think that Cincinnati's going to win 2-1.
I'm always sort of a little cautious about how they play at the Benz. I think the last matchup, the only reason I think we really won that one was because Lucho Acosta put in a banger that I was not expecting to come out of right field. I, I'm still not convinced that this team is piloting on all the cylinders. I still think that we probably might not see Yuya Kubo play. I've heard that he missed practice this week, so there's a possibility he might not be available off the bench. Other than that, I expect everybody to be ready. Matt Miazga and Luca Rosciano seem to be okay and healthy. Obi Nwomero, I'm going to guess that he's better than 45 minutes than the last game. So, you know me, I always predict the draws. I always say that. So I'll guess another 1-1 draw this one around. Just because I just don't know what version of this high powered offense is going to come out.
And I think that's fair, and we've really seen some teams, and that's why I say this is we've seen some teams being able to do some pretty uh, uncharacteristic things against Atlanta. I mean, Chicago got their first win at home since 1985 a couple weeks ago. They just kept talking about they're like this could be the first win, and then Atlanta ties it, and then immediately Chicago scores and there. So if there's a team to help get things right, it is Atlanta. And I remember the exact game that you were talking about. Atlanta probably should have won that game, but they instead that was a track meet. I remember it was just that was probably one of the better games that year. It was just back and forth, both teams. But yeah, I just can't see Atlanta getting it together at the moment, especially with Brooks Lennon out here. Matt Edwards, while he is good, he is young. He's gaining confidence every game, but he still makes some mistakes from there. And now that your midfield with Tristan Miamba, who just started to ramp things back up, is gone, you're gonna have to mess around with the midfield again. It will be very interesting to see how they line up and if they're going to be able to put on a good performance, a semi good performance, because I don't want to call last week a good performance, but it was better. Can they stay at that level? If they do, I think they've got a goal in them. If it's worse, then it could get very ugly in Atlanta.
Let's hope that I'm also basing a lot of my observations on really how on the back foot we were against Columbus. But Columbus, I think on paper, performance wise, might have been a little bit better than what Atlanta might be putting out there. I'm not saying that they are better, but um, I think being on the back foot didn't help my perception of how this team can perform.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to wrap this up. I know that we have a lot of people that go down to the Benz to watch this game. I wish I was making the trip. It's a Sunday night game, so everybody can watch this on national TV as well, as far as I know. Tommy, maybe to wrap this up a little bit, can you maybe give us some recommendations, some good places for good eats, good drinks down in Atlanta?
Absolutely. The tailgate area over there is fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember
So where
that.
all the supporters go, that's how I got it. So, quick thing about me is I'm actually from Cleveland, Ohio. So
Yeah, yeah.
I'm 3 hours north of you, and I came down to Atlanta. I really didn't have a team at that moment. The Falcons have been my team, NFL team, since I was a kid. I went down there and I went to the tailgate, and it was no joke. Again, another Ohio reference here, but their tailgating was bigger than what the Cleveland Browns have at the Muni lot here. I mean, it's just so many people there. I mean, again, this was prime Atlanta United, but everybody was down there. It's a family. The environments that they have, it's a great place to go. The backyard, which is right behind Mercedes-Benz Stadium, is a great place to hang out. Bunch of vendors out there. There's a DJ, so if you're bringing your kids down there, it's a great place to hang. There's also the Signia Hotel that's right behind there, which is a fantastic place to stay. We do live shows there, so we're actually doing a live show there on Sunday. So if you're there and you want to check it out and come talk to some of the other people I podcast with, they'll be there from 5 to 6, hanging out. You could do that, but yeah, there's some great places all around that stadium, and it's just they're going to keep building it because we've got the World Cup there. So
That's
things
true.
just keep popping up there every couple months. It's exciting.
Yeah, I was down there for that first away trip as an MLS unit back in 2019, and yeah, that tailgate was incredible. I really appreciate it. As someone who has been to college down there as a Georgia Tech grad, I really appreciate the camaraderie, the team building, the feel of an outstanding party. And Atlanta knows how to party. So I'm hoping that everybody, if you're making the trip down there, be a good guest and visit some of these places and shake hands, get to know people. The 90 minutes you can chant your butts off and all that, but once again, we're doing this out of the goodness of their heart. So definitely be good as a guest there.
And I don't know if you are going. I don't remember the section, but on the first level there is a brisket grilled cheese stand over there, and I will tell you, it will change your life. So stop over, get a brisket grilled cheese, send me a tweet, tell me how great it was, because it was my background in my phone there. My wife was getting a little bit jealous because it was on there, but it's just like, this is the best thing I've ever seen, and I think about it all the time.
I was going to stop you at brisket, but then you mentioned grilled cheese and just made it that much more awesome.
Oh yeah.
It sounds really good. Tommy, thank you very much for joining us tonight on the show. Can you let our everybody know where we can find you on social media and listen to more of Scarves and Spikes?
Sure. You can find me at Tommy ATL96, and then Scarves and the letter N Spikes. So we do live shows on YouTube. We talk about all MLS on Mondays. Wednesdays we talk about the upcoming matchups. That's what we just did prior to recording this. And then we do after the game, post game spaces. So I'm always running that. So if you follow us on Twitter and you want to, or X, whichever you want to call it, you stop in. If I see you got a Cincinnati logo, I'd love to bring in other fans from other teams to be able to talk about the game, win or lose. We won't harass you. No one will be mean to you. But it's a fun conversation to have with other fans, and that's kind of how we got started. So the spaces is just, I think it's a game changer, just because you could have people from anywhere coming in and talking about the game.
Maybe I'll stop by, win, lose, or draw, and say hello. And I promise the conversation won't be like how this one started today. But anyways, thank you everybody for listening. Thank you, Tommy, for joining us. If you guys want to listen to more of this, go to CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. Go to your favorite podcasting platform. Apple's got us there as well. Go to Cincy Soccer Talk on all your favorite social media outlets. We're there. On behalf of myself, on behalf of my guest, Tommy, thank you very much. Let's keep your kit clean. Thanks a lot, man.
Hi, Justin.